Elimination, the GI system. Bowel elimination, we're looking at the intestines here. The small intestines, which tend to be in the center, surrounded by the large intestines. Digestion, the chemical and mechanical breakdown of food so it can be absorbed. You can't eat a hamburger and have it directly go into your blood. It needs to be broken down. That starts in the mouth, continues in the stomach, and pretty much finishes up in the intestines. Absorption of the nutrients occurs mainly in the small intestines. So the nutrients are moving from the small intestines into the circulation. However, the absorption of water occurs mainly in the large intestines. So digestion, absorption, and elimination are overlapping processes. Elimination, when we're talking about that, we're talking mostly about the large intestines. Now this is a picture just of the large intestines. Down at the lower left we see the cecum. That's where the small intestines would attach. What's eventually going to become the stool enters there. There's lots of water in it. And as this mixture travels from the ascending colon through the transverse colon and down the descending colon, water is continuously being absorbed. So the stuff that's in the ascending colon is pretty watery. The stuff down at the bottom of the descending colon is pretty firm. From there it moves through the sigmoid colon and then through the rectum and then through the anus. The large intestines, which is also called the colon, are innervated by the autonomic nervous system. Remember, we have the fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, and if the sympathetic nervous system is really in play, the digestive system tends to slow down. But if the parasympathetic nervous system is the major actor here, we're in the rest and digest mode. Yes, the GI system is working very well at that point. It's very active. Stool production occurs in the large intestine. Stool is made up of water, undigested fiber, intestinal bacteria, and dietary fats. It tends to be brown because the stercobilin, which is a bile pigment, but the color also reflects the diet. Nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine. Fecal matter enters the large intestine and it's transported around by peristalsis. And in this large intestines, water and some electrolytes are absorbed. As it moves down into the rectal sphincter or the rectal area, there's dilation. The rectal sphincter or the internal sphincter, it will relax, and it is up to the anal sphincter to let the stool out, and that is under voluntary control. So stool enters the rectum distends, it sends the message to the brain, I gotta go. And at that point the person can either say, no, I can't do it right now, and defecation is inhibited, or yes, let's go to the bathroom. Defecation occurs because there's a relaxation voluntarily of the anal sphincter. Altered elimination. So if we have decreased peristalsis within the large intestine, we have things that are not moving around real well, we are going to have altered reabsorption and secretion. Because it's moving so slowly, it has a chance to absorb most of the fluid, and we're looking at a very hard stool at that point, and we risk obstruction. Altered neuromuscular function, either the nerves aren't giving them the right message or the muscles aren't responding appropriately. But again, the consequences is we're not eliminating stool appropriately. Either we're eliminating too much because the neural signal is saying keep going, and really we shouldn't be, or we're just not going to have the stool eliminated at all, the other extreme. Altered perfusion, that's inadequate blood supply to the intestines. Well, if you don't have the blood supply, you end up getting ischemic parts of the bowel. Parts of the bowel will eventually die. It's going to hurt. And you're going to have pieces of the bowel perforating and letting the stool into the peritoneal cavity. Altered patency. We're talking about obstructions here, bowel obstructions. It may be because there's a twist in the colon. It may be because there's some kind of a growth, like a tumor in the colon. But again, where it's going to block perfusion of the intestines, we're going to have some structural damage, and the areas above the obstruction are going to become dilated and really open because they keep filling up with stool, even though it can't go any farther. It's trapped at that point, but that doesn't mean stuff doesn't keep coming in from the stomach. So what are we going to see if the bowel is not working well? We'll see the stool changing in volume and in characteristics. Is there too much fluid in it or not enough fluid in it? What's the color? We may see bleeding, pain, distension, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and fever.